All right. Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to Boost Your Brand. I'm Sharon Martin, National Secretary Treasurer-elect. Before we begin, we do have a few housekeeping items to mention, so we'll start with those. The Mortarboard National Leadership Conference is a place to exchange meaningful ideas, so we'll respect each other's opinions and allow all to share their ideas freely. We encourage everyone to participate, and if you'd like to ask a question during the presentation, just raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you, or you can type your questions in the chat. Also, speaking of chat, joining us today is David Whitman, who will be our chat minder for this session. We'll be answering questions and engaging in conversation via that chat function as well. And today I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our speaker for this session, Leslie Ellis. In addition to serving as the section coordinator for Section 7, Leslie has spent the past year leading Mortarboard's branding committee. Leslie is a graduate of the Arctos chapter at Alumni University, and she currently works for the United States Tennis Association. Please help me welcome Leslie Ellis.
Thank you, Sharon. Hello, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces and names popping in. I'm seeing collegiate members and advisors, a really good variety of people. So I hope you all are having a great time at conference so far. I know it's a lot. It can be overwhelming. I was in your shoes several years ago when I was the chapter delegate for the Arctos chapter. We had our conference actually in Phoenix. So I remember leaving conference, coming home, just super excited about everything that I learned, really kind of just had this great energy to take back to my chapter and get things started and to build the brand of my chapter. We actually, at that point in time, the executive board that I worked with, we physically printed out the chapter action plan to like write our notes of what we wanted our vision to be before submitting it. And I remember at the very top writing in all caps, literally boost brand. So that's kind of where the vision for this session came. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. Hopefully I can get a thumbs up if you're seeing it okay. Perfect. So that's kind of where the vision for this session came from. And as a section coordinator now, I hear a lot from my chapters in Section 7. How can we increase our campus visibility? Or maybe there's not as big of a history of mortarboard on our campus. We just want to be more well-known. What can we do? Well, there are 4 key areas that I'm going to focus on today. Again, this is just a starting point. This could be a weekend session. Brand goes a long way, but we're just going to do it in a little snippet today. So some 4 key areas that we're going to focus on today: promoting your chapter events and members, connecting with campus and beyond, staying on trend and remaining relevant, and capitalizing on existing resources. Before we dissect all this information, let's take a moment, and I want you to think of an individual or an organization that you know of that you think does a good job of sharing their brand or promoting their brand or who they are. So it doesn't have to be a celebrity. It could be someone you have a class with and you think they do a good job of promoting the things that they're doing on their personal social media. It could be a small business in your community. Just take a moment and think on that. And while you're thinking, I'll give you some time to just think about all of that. I'm going to share someone that is my example of someone who I think has done this recently. I am obviously a big sports person. I love sports so much that I wanted to work in it. Sports, in the sports world right now, the Olympics, that's a big deal. I hope you all have been following all of that. So an Olympian that I think has done a really good job of their personal individual brand, because remember, brand can go beyond your organization. Brand is who you are as an individual and how people see you. US Rugby Sevens, I don't know if any of you have been following Elena Marr on TikTok. She's the one with like the tie-dye USA bucket hat. I think she is a great example of someone who has really capitalized on her personal brand, not only bringing visibility to the Olympics, but the sport of rugby. And why I think she's done a great job of that is because she's been completely authentic to who she is. She's not trying to sell you anything she's not. She's on there being a goofy Olympian, which kind of humanizes. Sometimes when we think of Olympians, we think they're these like godlike, you know, high level superhumans, but she really humanized the Olympian kind of figure. And then she was constantly getting her message out there. So she was consistently showing up, posting on her social media, just talking about her experience. She maybe didn't spend, 30 minutes to an hour to a weekend on what she posted. So the content, varied in quality, but she was consistently getting the message out there. And I think that that's a good takeaway with brand. So now that you've had an example from me, I would love to hear from maybe one or two of you to share the organization or individual you thought of and why you think that they are a good example of someone who is sharing their brand. Any takers? Maybe we can get someone just to jump in or a virtual hand raise.
I can go.
All right.
So actually she came to campus. I helped facilitate the presentation, but Victoria Garrick, she has a podcast about mental health. She did a TED Talk too that she talks about mental health and athletics and academics, and she's just really real. She doesn't like using filters on any of her photos, and she's just, I don't know, really cool, really body positive.
That's awesome. I love that authenticity kind of highlight there. I think people are often more attracted to that. We want something that's real. I'm seeing a hand raise over here on the side. For some reason, it's not showing your name. So
is it me?
Maybe what? Yes, it was you, Allison. I'm seeing the names now. Go for it, Allison.
I think specifically of Emma Chamberlain. Like, she really, as far as like authenticity goes, like with her vlogs and everything, like she started by herself and has been like very real and raw about like her struggles as like she's become more famous and like mental health and everything. And she's begun to like really capitalize off of that, and even like starting brands like coffee brands, since like that was kind of a recognizable thing with her. Like she would be really into coffee, so now she's into the coffee business.
Very cool. So that's another example of the realness, down to earth, relatable, the relatable side of a brand. So branding, as you all know, I'm going to skip to my next slide here. Branding is all about perception and reputation. So how are we as the audience seeing that organization or that person? It's all about telling your story. It's okay to brag. We can toot our own horn. We can scream it from the hilltops. We really want to just tell our story. And for those of you who were in the keynote session earlier with Saul Flores, he did a wonderful job of just sharing his story, even though it might not have always been easy. There were hardships along the way. He was really authentic and just told his story. And I think that goes a long way with his personal brand and his story of where he's come to be in his life. So for you and your chapters, promoting chapter events and your members is going to be a really big part of this. This is Mortarboard in action. This is what we do best. You all are busy, involved on your campus, and not just on your campus and your communities as well. So I've identified what I guess are the 3 Ps: the programming, the people, and the purpose. Programming, your events, what's going on, talk about it. Whether it's in social media, where you're pushing out what's going on, or just word of mouth with people on campus. The people, telling your story, the people is a huge, huge face of what you're doing, obviously, the face of what you're doing. So the people in your organization, whether it's your advisors, your executive board members, or just members and alumni, what are they doing? And it doesn't just have to be specifically related to Mortarboard. You're involved in other organizations on campus. You're wonderful leaders. You wouldn't be in Mortarboard if you weren't. So talk about that member on your chapter who is the captain of the soccer team and just won the match after a comeback against your rival. Talk about the really great work that your vice president is doing with research in the lab. Talk about how someone started an organization outside of Mortarboard. Really brag on your people. And then lastly, the purpose. Obviously, there's a reason behind everything we're doing. So people are change makers. That was another word that I heard earlier from Saul Flores, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. You're change makers. There's a purpose behind what we're doing. Highlight that and share that with the world. This is more than just your chapter. So when I'm talking in kind of the next few slides, think about this for you as an individual as well. Many of you are starting your senior year. Others, depending on your circumstance, may be a continuing senior, whatever the case is. But you're really molding yourself into a strong young professional and respected young professional as you continue beyond college and look to start your careers. Some of you looking for graduate school opportunities, others maybe some sort of practical or volunteer year of service. Many of you beginning your careers. So this is a really great way to brand yourself as an individual as you're seeking those opportunities post-grad. Connecting with campus and beyond. I've identified several areas here that I think you can look at as a chapter and as an individual. The first one is mingling with administration and executive staff on your campus. This is an obvious. You want these people in your corner. So I've seen several chapters after they leave conference, they go look up everyone in a leadership role on their campus and they find out whether or not they are a mortar board. If they are, invite them to events. If they aren't, invite them to events. You want to be including your leadership on your campus, even just a simple invitation to your tapping or initiation. And then if they aren't a mortar board member, you could tap them into honorary membership. That's just as important. Inviting them to the things that you're doing will go a long way when they are making decisions on your campus down the line, but then it also gives you an opportunity to talk with them about what's happening on your campus, to bring them to the table. So not only would it give you a seat at their table, they will then have a seat at your table and can really be a great advocate for mortar board and the things that are happening with your chapter. The next one is something that's near and dear to my heart, which is partnering with university marketing. This is so important to me because I actually started my career in higher ed marketing for my alma mater. The people in the university marketing offices are being paid to tell your story. So it's an obvious win-win to work with them and collaborate to get the message out there. Get to know the people in your university marketing office, not just the marketing faculty, but the marketing and communications staff that are employed. Sometimes they're called like institutional marketing. It varies on your campus, but get to know them. They partner with local media, so it could extend beyond your campus. It could get your message out into the community and beyond. Many universities have alumni magazines, so there could be an opportunity to highlight the things that mortar board is doing on your campus in an alumni magazine, or maybe a feature of a student. They run the university's social media handles, they manage the university website, and then they also send out those fun little packets to high school students that are trying to consider where they want to go to college. And there could be an opportunity to highlight mortar board in there, and that could pay off in the long run with future selections, because before someone's even coming to your campus as a student, they've already heard of mortar board on your campus from those recruiting admission packets. Communicating with alumni is another great area. I'm sure you've heard it in other sessions today. But if you didn't know, mortar board actually will pull a database for you. There's 2 lists of alumni. For all you have to do is request. The first list is all of the alumni from your chapter. So you can reach out to them, their contact information. The other list is all mortar board alumni that live in your area. So maybe they graduated from another institution, but moved to your job for work or whatever the circumstance is, but are local to your area. Take advantage of that resource and reach out to them. Many chapters have an alumni newsletter to keep them in the loop. Other chapters are inviting alumni to lead sessions and be guest speakers at programmings. Others invite them to lead their retreat or help them with executive leadership because they've been there, they've done that, you know? It's a good opportunity to engage alumni. And also for you as an individual postgraduate, it could lead to an opportunity for future future job or career advancement just from that networking opportunity. Developing a street team is another fun area you can think about. And I'm not necessarily talking about any intensely planned program, but really just being an ambassador. As the chair of the branding committee right now for Mortarboard, one thing we've talked about a lot is how we are all ambassadors. This is bigger than just your chapter president. This is bigger than just your communications chair. We are all ambassadors of Mortarboard. So any opportunity you have to talk about Mortarboard, do it. Any chance you want to show off that Mortarboard lapel pin, do it. A lot of chapters in my section have like a t-shirt Tuesday. They'll all wear their Mortarboard t-shirt on the same day, just so it's out and about. People will ask questions or at least recognize it and increase the brand that way. So encouraging people to post about what you're doing, sharing what you're doing. I've seen a lot of people on social media posting about the conference already. So if you haven't done that yet, this is a great opportunity to share what you're learning so far and being a great ambassador for Mortarboard. Engaging with the community is another area you can look at. So this is talking more so about the city or town in which your college is at. Branching out beyond the sidewalks of your campus, but in your city or community of your college, many chapters work with local small businesses to have fundraising nights. Many employers are willing to come in and also lead programming or some sort of retreat. And again, this is another great opportunity to just network and get to know your local community leaders. Lastly, as with anything, being creative is an important part of this. Don't get stuck in, it's always been done this way, so this is how we're going to do it. Don't be afraid to just step outside of the box and be creative as you're doing this. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Staying on trend and remaining relevant is another area that goes hand in hand with branding. And it's not always about the hashtags or who has the best analytics, who has the most followers, but it's really about the value that you can bring and staying true to yourself. We heard that earlier from several of the examples that were shared. So be authentic, focus on your uniqueness, and know your purpose. I'm going to stop my screen share momentarily to come back and see all of your faces. And we are getting ready to go into a breakout room for about 5 minutes. And I'm going to give you 3 quick questions. And I just want you to discuss this with your group. And I really am heavy on the discussion. Don't go to this breakout room and just stare at each other, because we all know that that's the worst when you go to a breakout room and no one's talking and you're just kind of sitting there. So really engage with each other. There's gonna be 3 quick hit questions. I want you to think about, what is something you do well? Okay, this can be either you as an individual or your chapter. What is something you do well? The second question is, what is something you can improve? Again, as an individual or as a chapter, what is something you can improve? And the last question is, what is something you'd like to start doing or add into the mix? I'll repeat those one more time before we get sent off to our Zoom rooms. What is something you do well? What is something you can improve? And what is something you'd like to start doing? All right, you have about 5 minutes. You're going to be sent off here shortly, and then we'll see you in a second. Really, the reason why I wanted to have everyone go through that little exercise there is to just reflect on where you're at, because if you don't know where you're at or who you are, it's really hard to establish where you're going or what you want to improve on. And the cap, let me actually share my screen again before I get too excited with what I'm talking about. So the cap, as you all know, is the very first report that you all as a chapter will submit back to the national office. And the cap is a really great baseline for that, to pinpoint those key areas that you want to grow and increase your visibility for your brand. So I hope that you'll use those questions that you answered in your breakout rooms to capitalize on existing resources. My life motto is work smarter, not harder. I'm sure you've heard this throughout your lifetime. It's so, so true. And especially as mortarboards, you all are busy, busy people. You're involved in a lot of organizations, both on campus and off. You have a personal life. Let's not forget that. You like to have fun outside of the work commitments too. And it's truly important to remember that you can accomplish goals without adding more stress and anxiety into your life. We all have to deal with our own things. COVID this past year threw a lot into people's lives. So find a way to accomplish your goals, but not adding more stress or anxiety into your life. And in this section, I particularly want to highlight some of the social media resources that you can lean on. This is certainly not the only area of increasing visibility, but this is the one that I hear most often from chapters. So I really wanted to pinpoint this area specifically. A couple great resources that you can look to use that really will help with your time management are already existing. So there's no need to go out of your way and reinvent the wheel when a lot of the resources already exist for you. The first one is canva.com. Many of you have probably used this at some point, but if not, it is a really great resource to lean on. It's really great for creating social media posts. If you're in need of a flyer for an event, if you're thinking about adding an e-newsletter for your alumni, you can build it all here. There are pre-templates that already exist. All you have to do is swap the photos and the text out, or you could start from scratch. And it's just a really great way to have some high quality content without the stress or time of having to make it. Unsplash.com is another great resource with a lot of free images and stock photography that you can lean on. And then there are a variety of social media apps that you can have directly on your phone. One of my favorites is Adobe Premiere Rush. That's a video editing software. I actually use that in my job every day. It makes it super easy. You can upload videos straight from your phone and edit it right there on the app. Maybe you're wanting to highlight members on your social media and do a video series. That would be a great app to look at. Mojo, similar concept. And then Hootsuite is a great platform for scheduling your content out. The biggest concern that I heard from one of my chapters last year was, I really want to grow our social media, but I just don't have the time to dedicate to it throughout the year. And a lot of that can be solved just by pre-scheduling your content. So if you have 30 minutes one week to sit down and map out what you want to highlight, you can pre-schedule it on Hootsuite. And a lot of the social media platforms now will let you pre-schedule in the social media platform. So you don't even need to go out of the app. But just pre-scheduling will allow you to really kind of get ahead. Also, when we talk about existing resources, I don't want you to think only apps or, platforms. Think about people. You can really capitalize and tap into talent that is already right around you. There may be a member of your chapter who's a communications major or someone who just really loves social media. Work with that person, allow them to be a part of the process and contribute. It's a really great way to engage your members. If your chapter doesn't have a social media chair, you could maybe think about adding it, or maybe just have a subcommittee work together to collaborate and to add to your social media pages. There also might be a comm major who is not a mortarboard at your school that would be willing to do this just to get some practical experience to add to their resume. A lot of schools also have practicum experiences where students are required to do some sort of on-campus involvement. This could be a great way to reach out to them as well. And then, of course, if you have some sort of class project as a comm major, I was a double comm major, so several of my class projects had to have some sort of practical experience. So this would be a great way to work with someone who needs the academic credit, and they can have the practical benefit of being involved with your chapter. And if they're not a member, it's a great way to maybe encourage them to think about being a member and being selected as a member in the future. So it could potentially have recruitment benefits as well. Also, when we're thinking of capitalizing existing resources, think about other student organizations on campus who are doing things well. I was sent to the breakout room a while ago, and it was mentioned collaborating with other student organizations. That is a perfect example of something that can be done to capitalize on existing resources. Work with other organizations on campus who are already doing it well, tag team, help each other out. There's a lot of crossover content that could really elevate your brand just by simply working together. As I've mentioned before, and you all know, you are all busy. So let's just work on ways that we can save some time while still getting the job done. I think we're gonna go to another quick breakout room. Let me just check my time real quick. We're good till 5, right? I think so. So I think that we do have time for another breakout room. So we're gonna do probably about the same time, 5, 6, 7 minutes. We'll kind of gauge the clock. And so once you're sent to your breakout room, I'm not going to give you 3 questions this time. It's just 1. I want you to talk about the things that you're doing on your campus specific to current brand. So if you're on social media, talk about some of your struggles or what you're doing to improve it. If you aren't doing anything at all, this could be a good chance for you just to bounce ideas off of each other. Again, it doesn't just have to be to social media. It could be to flyers on campus. I know several of you are very good at doing that and getting things on digital signage. Maybe you could share best practices with that. I really want an open discussion with whatever breakout room you're sent to about what's being done, what you can do, and just discuss together to share best practices. So we'll send you off to a breakout room now for 6 minutes or so. Still have some time. So can I get maybe like 1 or 2 brave souls to share what was discussed or shared in your breakout room? Maybe hands up if you want to pop in.
A lot of our breakout room discussed social media and our presence on social media. I know that my mortar board has no presence on social media, so I plan to get that started, and a couple other people plan to kind of revive theirs and focus on certain different things to share on social media.
Nice. I love to hear that. You'll have to let us know when you get it up and running so we can all follow. 1 more, maybe.
Yeah, we kind of talked about the same thing about how things were kind of out of date for about a year in some cases. And OSU actually has a pretty nice setup. So we were talking about taking a look at what they had so that we could maybe take a look at what a successful sort of media presence looks like.
That's great. Love to hear that. I will touch on one quick thing that was shared in the breakout room I was sent to. We talked a lot about quantity versus quality. And when you think of programming, specifically on the CAP, they have all the different sections of you need so many events, and it's hard with your visibility if you have tons of events to promote. So maybe thinking about a really strong quality event that you can put all of your energy into promoting that covers all the areas of scholarship, leadership, service, DEI, whatever the areas you're covering. It might be a bit easier to get the word and message out about the event when you have fewer to do so. But again, depending on your campus, it might look a little different, but happy to discuss offline. Obviously, we're limited with our time here. And before I wrap up, I'm going to share my screen one last time and can hopefully take a few questions if we have time as well. Please stay in touch with me. Don't be afraid to reach out. Contact me through email. That's my personal cell phone number. I'm trusting that you're not going to sell it to all the spam accounts. I get enough of that already, so I don't know if it's going to make a difference. Connect with me on LinkedIn, whatever your social media platform is. Would really love to stay connected and follow all of your pages throughout the year to see what you're doing. And with that, please don't forget when you're sharing these on your social media pages or on your respective campuses, please share that back with the national office. I think a lot of times we forget that we can submit stories to the forum. The forum is the alumni newsletter that is managed by Mortarboard, please share that back. They are looking for people to highlight and to share. Also with our new website, the revamped website, we need testimonies, we need photos. So please share that back and tag on your social media pages when you're pushing it out there as well. Additionally, in the closing session tomorrow, there is a portion on branding where we're talking about the Mortarboard brand. So I'll be speaking at that with my branding committee members. I really encourage you. I'm sure you'll all be there at the closing session, but take some notes, and I'm happy to discuss more about the brand. Beyond this, shoot me a message in Whova and we can continue the conversation offline. I think we have like 2 minutes. So if we have a couple questions, we can take those. If not, we can continue the conversation virtually elsewhere. Any quick snippet questions from anyone?
Do you have any suggestions for how you can do a really good job at promoting an event without giving your audience burnout?
Without giving them burnout?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a really great question, because with social media, sometimes you feel overwhelmed and flooded with all. I know when I was working at my alma mater, I would follow all the student organization pages and they're all posting flyers like every day. So it can be a lot in your face and it's hard to stand out. I would say video content performs higher than any digital file ever. So if you have some sort of funny, clever, you see a lot of people tapping into some viral trends here and there. If you can think of something really creative like that, it's more likely that you're going to engage your audience. And then also everyone loves a good giveaway. So I'm more likely to engage with content or see it on my page if there's something that maybe you could give away Mortarboard t-shirts. Maybe you could give them admission to something else. If you have an event that you're doing on campus, a ticketed event, there's all sorts of opportunities there, but we can talk about that more offline, Hannah. I love that. I love that you're trying to engage your audience more. Maybe one more, if not, we'll wrap up. We're kind of tight on time and I don't want you to be late. All right.
What would you say is no, it's okay. What is I guess your preferred platform that you've seen there's the most potential for in terms of reaching people?
Yeah. Well, for collegiate age members, definitely Instagram has the highest performing. For alumni, I would really encourage you to think about looking at LinkedIn. I don't think people lump LinkedIn into social media as much, but it's just as important and a great place to really connect with your alumni network. And then for alumni network as well, Facebook, the numbers are always higher on Facebook. But for your collegiate members, Instagram more than not is where they're at, but it could vary chapter to chapter. So I would just ask your members, what are they on? What are they doing? TikTok's really popular right now too. So you might have better luck on TikTok. So get to know your people.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone.
Leslie, this session has been fantastic. You've got lots of great comments there in the chat. So thanks so much for a great session. And just a reminder to everyone that we're going to take a short break before the fourth and final chapter operations rotation, which begins at 1/4 the hour, 5:15 Eastern, 4:15 Central, 3:15 Mountain, 2:15 Pacific. And again, you can reach Leslie if you have other questions. And thanks for joining us.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.